We are responding to concrete, detailed, explicit allegations. This is not random. We didn't choose his name out of a hat. We had allegations that we're following up on. And speaking of Lil Rod, he was the first to tie Justin to Diddy's shenanigans because, in his lawsuit, he claimed that Justin's job was to allegedly solicit workers, young girls, to engage in freak-offs. So, if you're wondering why fans think Justin is on the run, this is why, because the freak-offs are a major part of the Fed's charges against Diddy. The last thing he wants is to wear matching jumpsuits with his daddy in prison. This goes for Christian as well because he also got an SA charge of his own. An employee claimed that he tried to do bad things to her on a family holiday. The woman's name is Grace O'Mara, and in a lawsuit, she claimed that Christian stayed her on the Combs family yacht. She claimed that she was hired as a stewardess on the yacht that Diddy chartered a few days before New Year's Day in 2023. According to TMZ, Grace claimed that she was doing her job during the shindig, which she says was advertised as a family-friendly excursion. After that, King came on, and she claims he immediately became uncomfortably fixated on her. She alleges King had her take a shot of liquor, and she claims she immediately suspected it was spiked. Despite that, she was able to tell him to get off her and leave her alone. She claims King was trying to kiss her despite her protestations. She explained that after a brief tussle, she managed to break free from him. However, he then insisted she do her job and find him a place to sleep. Since it was her job, she had no choice but to comply and escort him to the theater area. But once they got there, he allegedly cornered her again. According to reports, King cornered her and attempted to force her to perform oral on him. She says she fought him off and includes in the docs photos of her forearm, where she claims to have been bruised during the altercation. Eventually, O'Mara says she was able to escape but claims to have suffered mentally and emotionally ever since. Yeah, Christian better run because this is not looking good for him. This time he doesn't have Daddy's money to save him because Daddy is in a hot mess of his own at the moment. Anywho, the feds finally decided to move in on Diddy, and a few weeks ago, CNN reported that the feds had set up a grand jury to indict Diddy on charges ranging from racketeering and more. They said federal investigators are preparing to bring accusers of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs before a federal grand jury, two sources familiar with the probe tell CNN, signaling the U.S. Justice Department is moving toward potentially seeking an indictment of Combs. They went on to say that possible witnesses have been notified by investigators that they could be brought in to testify in front of a federal grand jury in New York City. According to one source, bringing individuals who have filed civil lawsuits against Combs before a grand jury will mark a significant escalation in the government's ongoing investigation involving the producer and Bad Boy Records founder. Well, the grand jury voted to indict Diddy, and he was arrested in New York. Everybody thought that he was going to get bail, but the court said, psych, and denied him bail, ordering him to be kept in custody until the trial. According to federal prosecutors, they're worried he will intimidate witnesses and obstruct the case if he's released on bond. Prosecutors also say Diddy's got the money and the means to be a flight risk, and the feds say he had what appeared to be narcotics in his hotel room when he was arrested. He even offered to pay a $50 million bond and home detention, but the judge said no. We now have the details of the bail conditions that Diddy offered, and why all. It's wild. According to reports, Diddy's lawyer proposed bail on these conditions: a $50 million bond co-signed by Sean Combs' mother, his sister, the mother of his oldest daughter, and his 3 adult sons. He also proposed that the bond would be secured by the equity in Mr. Combs' residence located at 2 West Star Island in Miami, Florida. The appraised value of the home is about $48 million, and the home is unencumbered. In anticipation of this bail hearing on August 20th, 2024, Mr. Combs paid off the remaining mortgage of about $18 million so that the home could be used to secure a bond and be free of a mortgage. The document went on to say that the bond would also be secured by the equity of Mr. Combs' mother's home, located at 450 Alton Road in Miami, Florida, and that Mr. Combs' travel would be restricted to the Southern District of Florida and the Southern District of New York to attend court, meet with his counsel, and attend medical appointments, which we will address to the court in a separate sealed submission, as well as the Eastern District of New York or the District of New Jersey, only to the extent that his travel to and from New York involves an airport in those districts. The document then revealed that Diddy submitted his passport to the authorities in April of this year. But it didn't stop there, he also offered to submit his mom's and daughter's passports. It said the passports of the following family members who have already surrendered their passports to counsel after the raids on Mr. Combs: Janice Combs, Chance Combs, Jesse Combs, J.Lo Combs, and Love Combs. Child, even the baby, what did the baby do? It's wild that Diddy offered all this, and he was still denied bail. This tells us that the case is way more serious than the feds are letting on. It also doesn't help that reports are now claiming that multiple sources in the know are claiming that most of Diddy's minions are coming forward with new testimony and are snitching on him in exchange for immunity and reduced prison time. My understanding is that there were a lot of individuals involved. And I think by looking at the indictment, seeing that only Sean Combs is the only defendant currently, who knows if that increases and it gets superseded with a different indictment? But currently there's only one defendant. My guess is that all of those individuals who could have been co-defendants or co-conspirators or could have been involved in a RICO case have flipped on Sean Combs, and they're getting some sort of immunity. What's really interesting is that Diddy conveniently paid off his mortgage just before the indictment hit. It kind of looks like he was cleaning house and preparing for this, because he knew what was coming. I mean, if his lawyers were smart, they probably already knew this was coming and prepped him on what to do. It kind of explains why he put his $70 million LA mansion up for sale. He needed to raise money urgently to pay off the mortgage and put a couple of things in place before things blew up. If you're wondering why the kids had to give up their passports, this fan gave an interesting perspective on things, saying they're likely the names on offshore accounts. They don't want him moving money overseas or paying people off or silencing people with the money in offshore accounts. He can't get to the accounts without going there, because large sum withdrawals need to be done in person to initiate. This is an interesting perspective, and it does kind of explain things. But while the girls are safe, we can't say the same for Christian and Justin, because if the streets are right and they're on the run, it could mean a lot of trouble for them. Fans commented, Diddy's sons can be both victims and perpetrators. You can mourn for the little boys who didn't have a choice while holding the men they are today accountable. If they are involved, it's over for Diddy. The only people I feel bad for are his daughters. His sons clearly partook in some of the foolishness. His mother raised a disgusting and despicable man and chose to look the other way as long as her bills were paid. And no one has mentioned it, but how come Diddy's sons get to keep their passports and roam free while all the women, especially the innocent daughters, have their passports revoked and are being hawk-eyed?